Okay, good afternoon, Angie, for you. Let's continue on today with Act 3, Scene 1. In this scene, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern report to the king that they have not found the cause of Hamlet's strange behavior. Polonius and Claudius go ahead with their plan to eavesdrop on Hamlet's conversation with Ophelia. Polonius makes a comment about hypocrisy, and this, in turn, troubles Claudius and prompts him to reveal his guilty conscience in an aside to the audience. Hamlet enters alone, thinking aloud once again about the human condition. And we know from yesterday's study that this contemplation about the meaning of life or the meaninglessness of life really is indicative of one of the stages in an existential crisis. Then he catches sight of Ophelia praying, or appearing to be praying. When Ophelia tries to return some love tokens Hamlet gave her earlier, Hamlet catches wind of things. He's got an intuition, and he replies by insulting Ophelia and women in general. So again, he's going to have a bit of a hate-on for all women here, especially his mother. He's just not able to let go of his bitterness. Claudius is not convinced by what he has overheard that Hamlet is mad over Ophelia's love, but he does claim that Hamlet is dangerous. He announces his plan to send Hamlet on a mission to England. Polonius still, though, insists that Hamlet's behavior is caused by love sickness and suggests eavesdropping on a conversation between Hamlet and his mother. So again, we're not surprised that Polonius has suggested yet another opportunity for him to spy on somebody. He loves to get his nose in other people's business. And this is one situation where that's going to happen again, because of course there is going to be an opportunity where Gertrude has a bit of a heart-to-heart with her son, and there's no reason why she couldn't tell the king what happened, yet Polonius offers to spy and to eavesdrop and then report to the king himself. All right, so if you look at the sketch here again, it helps us to imagine the scene. We see that that Ophelia is apparently randomly just walking around lonely. She has been instructed to carry a Bible that is apparently going to show Hamlet how lonely she really truly is. All right, so let's get going here. Act 3, Scene 1, a room in the castle. Enter King, Queen, Polonius, Ophelia, Rosencrantz, and Guildenstern.
And can you, by no drift of circumstance, get from him why he puts on this confusion, grating so harshly all his days of quiet with turbulent and dangerous lunacy?
He does confess he feels himself distracted, but from what cause he will by no means speak.
Okay, so the king says, you haven't been able to figure out what's wrong with Hamlet yet? Like, can't you get some information out of him in a roundabout way, by no drift of circumstance, in a roundabout way? And Rosencrantz says, well, he does admit that he's not himself. He admits that he's lost all his mirth, that he has, that he does feel distracted, but he won't share with us why. Now we know why. It's because Hamlet's already figured out that both of his old friends, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, are spying on him.
Now do we find him forward to be sounded, but with a crafty madness keeps aloof, when we would bring him on to some confession of his true state?
Did he receive you well?
Most like a gentleman.
But with much forcing of his disposition.
Niggard of question, but of our demands most free in his reply.
Did you essay him to any pastime?
Madam, it so fell out that certain players we all wrought on the way, of these we told him, and that it seemed him a kind of joy to hear of it. They are about the court, and as I think they have already ordered this night to play before him.
Okay, so the queen asks him, did he receive you well? Like, was he happy to see you? And they say, well, he was happy to see us. And then she says, well, were you able to get him to commit to doing some other things with you, to get involved? And he says, well, we couldn't even get that far in the conversation because we started to tell him that some actors are on their way to the castle. And that just made him so happy that we just started talking about that. And then Polonius says, oh, that's right. I'm supposed to tell you that the actors are going to put on a play tomorrow night, and both you, the king and the queen, are invited to join. And Claudius is going to say, oh, that makes my heart so happy to see that Hamlet has perked up a bit. Now, there is some irony in this, in that he says, oh, it doth much content me in my heart. But really, when he gets there, he is not going to be that contented, right? That's the whole purpose of him attending this play, to make him feel uncomfortable so that he gives up his guilt in some way. But the king admits, yes, I will be there tomorrow night.
Most true, and he beseech me to entreat your majesties to hear and see the matter.
With all my heart, and it doth much content me to hear him so inclined. Good gentlemen, give him a further edge, and drive his purpose on to these delights.
We shall, my lord.
That sweet Gertrude leave us too. For we have closely sent for Hamlet hither, that he, as 'twere by accident, may hear affront Ophelia. Her father and myself, lawful espials, will so bestow ourselves, that seeing unseen, we may of their encounter frankly judge, and gather by him as he is behaved, if it be the affliction of his love or no, that thus he suffers for.
I shall obey you.
Okay, we see the queen here as a puppet figure as well, right? The king says that, Gertrude, I'm going to have you leave because Polonius and I are going to lawfully spy. Lawful espials. We're going to lawfully spy on him. Except for, in this scenario, the only one that really truly is lawfully maybe even allowed to spy would be his mother. The other two are not even one of his parents. And so it's interesting that he says, Gertrude, you leave. Because we're going to spy, we're going to figure out whether he really is madly in love with Ophelia or not. Of course, Gertrude, a bit of a puppet, says, I will obey you.
And for your part, Ophelia, I do wish that your good beauties be the happy cause of Hamlet's wildness. So shall I hope your virtues will bring him to his wonted way again, to both your honors.
All right, so then she says to Ophelia, I really hope you're the reason why my son is acting so crazy. Because if you're the reason, then I know that your virtue will be able to bring him back to himself so that he's not acting so crazy.
Madam, I wish it may.
Ophelia, walk you here. Gracious, so please you, we will bestow ourselves. Read on this book. The show of such an exercise may colour your loneliness. We are oft to blame in this. 'Tis too much proved that with devotion's visage and pious action, we do sugar o'er the devil himself.
So this little speech right here that Polonius gives is going to prompt the king to feel a little bit of, feel guilty. So he says here, we are oft to blame in this. Too much proved that with devotion's visage, the face of virtue, we're going to hide our wickedness. So he says, let's take a look at the annotation here. With a display of virtuous behavior, we conceal our wickedness. So we're going to appear that, we're going to make it look like Ophelia was just walking around with the Bible, and that she's just going to randomly run into Hamlet. But really, underneath that is wickedness. We're spying on Hamlet. And so the way that Polonius puts this makes Claudius think about how he's doing the same thing, right? He's appearing to be this good guy, but underneath it, he's wicked. So he's going to say, oh, that is true, like about his own behavior. And he's going to say, how smart a lash that speech doth give my conscience. The harlot's cheek beautied with plastering art is not more ugly to the thing that helps it than is my deed to my most painted word. Oh, heavy burden. So let's take a look at the annotation along the side here. The harlot's word. The prostitute's makeup is just as ugly as the cheek it covers. In the same way, my hypocritical behavior is just as ugly as the deed it is covering up. So, in this, Claudius admits that he knows that he's being a hypocrite. He is aware of his hypocritical behavior, which means he's a pretty evil guy, right? He is very Machiavellian, which means that the means justifies the end. The end is he wants to keep his queen and his crown, so he's going to do whatever it takes. If he's got to spy or kill his brother, doesn't matter. He's going to keep it because the means justifies the end result. So it's going to spur him to have a little bit of a guilty conscience here, but not too bad. Yeah.
Do you mean the ends justify the means?
The ends justify the means. What did I say?
You said the means justify the ends.
The means justify the ends.
Because
Yeah.
the means is the
Yeah.
lying in that. So
The means justifies the ends. The end justifies. Yeah, you know what? It's better said that way. That's right. The end justifies the means. Yes, very good. That's exactly what I meant.
Oh, 'tis too true. How smart a lash that speech doth give my conscience. The harlot's cheek, beautied with plastering art, is not more ugly to the thing that helps it than is my deed to my most painted word. Oh, heavy burden.
I hear him coming. Let's withdraw, my lord.
So here comes his famous speech.
To be or not to be, that is the question.
All right, so most scholars interpret this to mean that he is contemplating suicide. But some other scholars believe that it really is about him contemplating killing Claudius. So as he proceeds through this speech, figure out for yourself, what do you think he's talking about? Is he talking about killing himself or killing the king or both?
Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against a sea of troubles, and by opposing end them.
Okay, so here we see he's talking about the goddess Fortuna. So he's suggesting, I don't know what to do. Is it better to just hang here, in my sea of trouble, or should I oppose it in some way and try to end my suffering? This goddess Fortuna has thrown so much at me right now. I don't know what to do. He's overwhelmed.
To die, to sleep, no more. And by a sleep to say we end the heartache and the thousand natural shocks that flesh is heir to. 'Tis a consummation devoutly to be wished.
All right, so he seems to be talking about himself here. He says, if I kill myself, then that's it. That's the end of it. I end the heartache, but it is also so final. It's a consummation. It's something very, very devoutly to be wished, to be considered very, very carefully.
To die, to sleep, perchance to dream. Aye, there's the rub.
There's the obstacle.
For in that sleep of death, what dreams may come when we have shuffled off this mortal coil must give us pause.
All right, so he's suggesting here that if we kill ourselves, or if we kill somebody, we don't know what we're going to encounter on the other end. He says, so this is why we continue to live through a long, challenging life that's filled with calamity. Because although it might be really bad on this side, it might be worse when we die. So it makes us pause and reconsider killing ourselves, because we don't know what's on the other side. It might be even worse.
Theirs the respect that makes calamity of so long life. For who would bear the whips and scorns of time, the oppressor's wrong, the proud man's contumely, the pangs of despised love, the law's delay, the insolence of office, and the spurns that patient merit of the unworthy takes, when he himself might his quietus make with a bare bodkin.
Okay, so why should we bear all of these challenges? The scorns of time, people doing us wrong, people, proud men insulting us, despised love, people cheating the law. Like, why should we accept all of this calamity when we could just do ourselves in with a bare bodkin, a bare dagger? We could just make our own quietus, release from this earth with a dagger. Well, he's going to suggest the reason we don't do that is because we're afraid of the afterlife, and it makes us pause before we do that because we're afraid of what might be there.
Who would fardels bear to grunt and sweat under a weary life, but that the dread of something after death, the undiscovered country, from whose bourne no traveller returns, puzzles the will, and makes us rather bear those ills we have than fly to others that we know not of.
So because we don't know what's waiting for us on the other side, it makes us pause, it makes us reconsider. So we stay in this life rather than kill ourselves and subject ourselves to unknown burdens.
Thus, conscience does make cowards of us all. And thus the native hue of resolution is sicklied o'er with the pale cast of thought. And enterprises of great pitch and moment, with this regard their currents turn awry, and lose the name of action.
All right, so he says, we're all like this. We all, when we overthink this, it makes us reconsider our actions. Thus, conscience does make cowards of all of us. And he says, and thus the native hue of resolution. Let's take a look at the annotation here. It says the natural color of courage. So our indecision takes our courage, our natural state of courage, and turns us sicklied over with a pale cast of thought. Turns us lily-livered, right? Makes us cowards, makes us afraid to do what we said we were going to do. So in other words, he's kind of justifying his own indecision here. Aren't we all like this, he says?
Soft you now, the fair Ophelia.
Nymph, in thy orisons be all my sins remembered.
Good my lord, how does your honor for this many a day?
Okay, so let's take a look at the annotation. He says, Lady, ask forgiveness for my sins while you are praying. Now this is appearance versus reality. She's not really praying. It's all a setup by her father, right? She's got the Bible. It's all appearance versus reality.
I humbly thank you. Well.
My lord, I have remembrances of yours that I have longed long to redeliver. I pray you now, receive them.
No, I never gave you aught.
All right, so she's just randomly praying, but happens to be carrying all of these love tokens that he gave her. Right. So he catches wind of this, and he looks at the situation and says, this doesn't feel like, the Ophelia that I know. And he thinks right away that this is a setup. Something's going on here. So he responds with, I never gave you those gifts. she is going to be heartbroken over this. Again, we have lots of miscommunication happening, and it is a true tragedy because they really truly are in love with each other. So he recognizes this is not the real Ophelia, and he intuits that or suspects that her father maybe is involved, or maybe the king. He doesn't trust anybody, but up until this point, he thought he could trust her.
My honoured lord, I know right well you did. And with them words of so sweet breath composed as made the things more rich. Their perfume left, take these again. For to the noble mind, rich gifts wax poor when givers prove unkind. There, my lord.
All right, so these gifts you gave me have lost their value because you've been so unkind to me. And she's hurting. She's really hurting. She believed him when he said, I love you. Doubt that the stars shine in the sky, but never doubt how much I love you, Ophelia. She believed him. And then her brother and father convinced her that he was just playing with her. So she's really hurt, right? She says, take these gifts back. So part of this is true. She does feel this way a bit, but she wouldn't feel this way were it not for the deception of other people.
Are you honest?
My lord.
Are you fair?
What means your lordship?
That if you be honest and fair, your honesty should admit no discourse to your beauty.
All right, so Hamlet's kind of confused here. He's like, are you for real? Like, are you honest? Are you for real, Ophelia? And she says, I don't know what you're talking about. And he says, well, if you are truly virtuous, you will not allow your beauty to interfere with your virtue. He's really talking about his mother, right? He's saying, my mother allowed her virtue to be forgotten about because her beauty attracted my uncle. And he can't get over it. So he's kind of confusing the two of them together here. So he's going to say, your beauty has made you, has interfered with your ability to be honest. I now have proof that women are not to be trusted. Because he's going to take all of her actions as the ultimate betrayal. I thought I could trust you, Ophelia, but now even you have betrayed me. All women are the same, he's going to say. You, my mother, you can't trust them. And then she's going to say, well, I thought you loved me. And he's going to say, I thought I did, but I didn't, right? He's trying to hurt her now. She shows character delineation, though, by not hurting him in return. She prays for heaven to heal him. And she does so a couple times. She never spurts back any abuse, and he is letting her have it.
Could beauty, my lord, have better commerce than with honesty?
I truly. For the power of beauty will sooner transform honesty from what it is to a bawd than the force of honesty can translate beauty into his likeness. This was sometime a paradox, but now the time gives it proof.
I have proof all women are not to be trusted.
I did love you once.
Indeed, my lord. You made me believe so.
You should not have believed me. For virtue cannot so inoculate our old stock, but we shall relish of it. I loved you not.
I was the more deceived.
Get thee to a nunnery.
Okay, so she's going to spiral now. He's like, I never loved you. And she is going to just be heartbroken. I have been deceived. My father, my brother, they were right. I've been completely deceived by you. And she's going to spiral. She's going to unravel and lose her mind.
Why wouldst thou be a breeder of sinners? I am myself indifferent, honest, but yet I could accuse me of such things it were better my mother had not borne me. I am very proud, revengeful, ambitious, with more offences at my beck than I have thoughts to put them in, imagination to give them shape, or time to act them in. What should such fellows as I do, crawling between heaven and earth? We are arrant knaves, all believe, none of us. Go thy ways to a nunnery.
All right, so he's expressing here that he has lost faith in all humankind now, even his love Ophelia has betrayed him. And again, this is a huge tragedy because they both really, underneath it all, love each other. So he is expressing here that he has a negative view of the world, and he is saying, even I am not to be trusted, Ophelia. I have all of these terrible characteristics about me, so you shouldn't have trusted me. And then he's going to say to her, get thee to a nunnery. You shouldn't be of this world. You can't trust anybody. It's best, Ophelia, that you just remove yourself from this world and get to a nunnery where you can be safe. Now let's take a look at the opposite page here. It says, nunnery, a convent where nuns go. So a place where Ophelia will be free of sin and temptation, but it also is a word meaning brothel, a place where prostitutes work. So he's not sure if she is pure and virtuous or if she's a harlot like his mother. Right? Definitely mummy issues here.
Where is your father?
At home, my lord.
Let the doors be shut upon him, that he may play the fool nowhere but in his own house. Farewell.
Oh, help him, you sweet heavens.
If thou dost marry, I'll give thee this plague for thy dowry.
All right, so again, she says, I want heaven to help him. She will not abuse him back. And now he's going to really dig into her. He's going to say, if you get married, I'll put forth a plague, a disease, for your dowry as a bribe for your husband. And then he says, in fact, you shouldn't get married. But if you do get married, make sure you marry a fool. Because if you marry a wise man like me, we figure out pretty quickly how untrustworthy you women are. And you turn us into monsters. He's just laying right into her. But she will not respond in the same way.
Be thou as chaste as ice, as pure as snow, thou shalt not escape calumny. Get thee to a nunnery, go, farewell. Or if thou wilt needs marry a fool, for wise men know well enough what monsters you make of them. To a nunnery go, and quickly too.
Okay, so it seems like, again, he's confusing her with Gertrude. He's putting them both into the same pile. Talking about Gertrude, he no longer trusts Ophelia, though, because of what he has interpreted to be this huge betrayal.
Farewell!
Oh, heavenly powers, restore him.
I've heard of your paintings too well enough. God hath given you one face and you make yourselves another. You jig, you amble and you lisp, you nickname God's creatures and make your wantonness your ignorance. Go to her no more, aunt. It hath made me mad. I say there will be no more marriages. Those that are married already, all but one, shall live. The rest shall keep as they are. To a nunnery, go!
All right, so let's take a look here. On the opposite page in the annotations, it says, you jig, you amble. These are dancing movements that suggest sexual seductive behavior, and lisping in Shakespeare's time was associated with sexually immoral behavior. Now, that's not Ophelia. He is mixing Ophelia up with his mother, how he feels about his mother, right? So he's lumped Ophelia and his mother in the same pile because of her great betrayal. So again, she responds to pray for his soul. Character delineation. She's not any of these things that he says that she is.
Oh, what a noble mind is here o'erthrown. The courtiers, soldiers, scholars, eye, tongue, sword. The expectancy and rose of the fair state.
All right, so she doesn't criticize him, but she is going to talk about what he used to be like. And she's going to say, oh, this is terrible tragedy because you had this wonderful, noble mind and you've lost it. And she's going to give a bunch of explanations. You were the ideal Renaissance man. You were so perfect in so many ways. And I of ladies most deject and wretched that sucked the honey of his music vows. And I am the fool, lady most dejected and wretched, because I believed the honey coming out of your mouth. I am the fool, because I shouldn't have believed you, Hamlet.
glass of fashion and the mould of form, the observed of all observers, quite down. And I of ladies most deject and wretched, that suck the honey of his music vows. Now see that noble and most sovereign reason, like sweet bells jangled out of tune and harsh, that unmatched form and feature of blown youth, blasted with ecstasy. Oh, woe is me, to have seen what I have seen, see what I see.
All right, so this is gonna make her start to spiral here. She's saying, you used to be the perfect man, and I believed every word you told me, except for now you have lost your mind, and I cannot believe that I am witnessing this. This is torture for me to watch you lose your mind like this.
Love? His affections do not that way tend. Nor what he spake, though it lacked form a little, was not like madness. There's something in his soul, o'er which his melancholy sits on brood, and I do doubt the hatch and the disclose will be some danger.
All right, so the king, Claudius, says, Polonius, what are you talking about? He's not in love with her. He said, I never gave you those tokens. He says, I don't believe that he's in love with her. That's not why he's mad. He says, but he is dangerous. I don't trust him. And Claudius is going to come up with a plan to just get rid of Hamlet. He doesn't trust him. So he's going to note that England owes Denmark a favor. And so he's going to send Hamlet to England to get rid of him, basically, till he can figure out what to do. And he's going to suggest maybe he'll turn into his old self. Maybe it'll be good for him. And he's going to say, Polonius, what do you think about that plan? And Polonius is going to say, yeah, no, I think that's a good plan, but I still think he's mad with love over my daughter.
Which for to prevent, I have in quick determination thus set it down. He shall with speed to England for the demand of our neglected tribute. Haply the seas and countries different, with variable objects, shall expel this something settled matter in his heart.
So yeah, I suspect he's hatching some dangerous plan, and I need to prevent it somehow. Until I figure out how, I'm just going to get rid of him.
Whereon his brain still beating puts him thus from fashion of himself. What think you on't?
It shall do well. But yet I do believe the origin and commencement of his grief sprung from neglected love.
What's really interesting is neither Claudius nor Polonius seem to care about Ophelia. Polonius has just used his daughter as bait. Her heart has been ripped out. She's still crying, and nobody even addresses her.
How now, Ophelia? You need not tell us what Lord Hamlet said. We heard it all. My lord, do as you please, but if you hold it fit, after the play, let his queen mother all alone entreat him to show his grief. Let her be round with him, and I'll be placed, so please you, in the ear of all their conference. If she find him not, to England send him, or confine him where your wisdom best shall think.
It shall be so. Madness in great ones must not unwatched go.
All right, so Polonius has another plan. So listen, he says, before you send him to England, watch the play tomorrow, and then after the play, let him go to have a little heart-to-heart with Gertrude, and I'll be spying on them. I'll eavesdrop on the conversation, and then I'll tell you after how the conversation went, which again is kind of redundant. He's sticking his nose into some business that it doesn't really belong, because if the conversation is with Gertrude could just go and tell the king himself what happened in the conversation, right? The king agrees. That sounds like a great plan, Polonius. Madness in great ones must not unwatched go. He suspects that Hamlet is more cunning than he is mad. So a little bit further up, though, Polonius says, okay, I think that's a good plan. Get rid of him, send him to England. But I still think that his grief has sprung from neglected love. Now, this is ironic because, of course, he's talking about Ophelia, right? I think he's mad because my daughter has neglected his love. But the truth of the matter is that, at least in these moments, he has gone mad from neglected love from his mother, right? The fact that his mother has remarried so quickly and isn't there for Hamlet is really contributing a lot to him being very upset. All right, Act 3, Scene 2. In this scene, Hamlet gives the actors some last-minute advice on how to perform the play. He then confides in Horatio, telling him of his plan to test Claudius's guilt. Horatio promises to observe Claudius's reaction to the play. When the king and queen Polonius, Ophelia, and the rest of the court enter, Hamlet again plays the madman. The performance of The Mousetrap begins with a dumb show or pantomime of the plot. So again, the Mousetrap is the play, The Murder of Gonzales, Hamlet's version of it, of course, and he's going to catch a rat. He's going to try and catch the conscience of the king. The play itself gets underway. At the moment when the murder of the king is enacted, Claudius is deeply affected. He walks out, putting an end to the performance. Hamlet and Horatio are both convinced of Claudius's guilt. As the scene ends, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern return to tell Hamlet that the king is angry. Yeah, no doubt. Polonius informs Hamlet that his mother wishes to speak to him. So putting his plan right into action, his plan that he's going to listen in, he's going to eavesdrop on the conversation between his mother. All right, so Scene 2, a hall in the same. Enter Hamlet and the players.
Speak the speech, I pray you, as I pronounced it to you, trippingly on the tongue. But if you mouth it as many of your players do, I had as lief the town crier had spoke my lines. Nor do not saw the air too much with your hand thus, but use all gently. For in the very torrent, tempest, and as I may say, whirlwind of passion, you must acquire and beget a temperance that may give it smoothness. Oh, it offends me to the soul to hear a robustious, periwig-pated fellow tear a passion to tatters, to very rags, to split the ears of the groundlings, who for the most part are capable of nothing but inexplicable dumb shows and noise. I would have such a fellow whipped for all doing termagant. It out Herod's Herod. Pray you avoid it.
All right, so here we have Hamlet giving some last-minute advice to the actors. He says, when you are acting this out, it's very important that you do not over-exaggerate, he says, because that might lead to some laughter, and that's not that's not what I want this to be the result, he says. So make sure you do not use exaggerated hand gestures. So do not saw the air too much with your hand like this, he says, but use it gently. Be natural in how you perform this speech. He says, I've seen some actors before wearing wigs and overdoing it, and the melodramatic, exaggerated acting style is not what I want you to do here. So he says, but make sure that you don't underact either. It's really important that you present this speech as naturally as possible, but powerfully, because, of course, it's all strategy. He wants to elicit a certain reaction in King Claudius.
Your Honor. Be not too tame neither, but let your own discretion be your tutor. Suit the action to the word to the action, with this special observance, that you o'erstep not the modesty of nature, for anything so overdone is from the purpose of playing, whose end, both at the first and now, was and is to hold, as 'twere, the mirror up to nature.
Okay, so lines 16 to 24. In these lines, Hamlet is reflecting the Renaissance idea that drama should present an image of real life. So don't overdo it, but don't underdo it either. Do it just right.
To show virtue her own feature, scorn her own image, and the very age and body of the time his form and pressure. Now this overdone, or come tardy off, though it make the unskilful laugh, cannot but make the judicious grieve, the censure of the which one must in your allowance outweigh a whole theatre of others. Oh, there be players that I have heard play, and heard others praise, and that highly, not to speak it profanely.
All right, so he's saying, make sure that you do it just right, because you don't want to come off as being lazy and making people laugh. That's not the look that I'm going for. He's saying that won't make anybody have a sad, soulful reaction. And then he's going to go on to say, I have witnessed actors that have not mastered their skill. They're just terrible actors.
But neither having the accent of Christians, nor the gait of Christian pagan nor man, have so strutted and bellowed that I have thought some of nature's journeymen had made men, and not made them well, they imitated humanity so abominably.
I hope we've reformed that indifferently with us.
Oh, reform it altogether. And let those that play your clowns speak no more than is set down for them. For there be of them that'll make themselves laugh, to set on some quantity of barren spectators to laugh too, though in the meantime some necessary question of the play be then to be considered. That's villainous, and shows a most pitiful ambition in the fool that uses it. Go make you ready.
Okay, so this is a criticism of comedians who ad-lib among themselves on stage, drawing attention away from the main action. So he says, make sure that nobody ad-libs while you're presenting this speech. It's important that the attention is all on you and not on anybody else talking. And so he says, all right, go and get ready. Go get ready. And then Polonius, Rosencrantz, and Guildenstern come in. And Hamlet is going to get rid of them too. He's going to say, go, all three of you, and go make sure that these actors are ready. It's going to leave Horatio and Hamlet a moment on stage alone, where Hamlet is going to say to Horatio, you're the only person in my life who's not betrayed me yet, right? And he's going to give Horatio a huge compliment. He's going to say, I've actually never met someone so even-keeled, so able to balance whatever fortune throws at you. When fortune throws something bad at you, you balance it, or good, you balance it. And he's going to say, you're such an even-keeled person that I trust you. I trust you so much, Horatio, that I'm going to tell you what I'm doing. And he's going to tell Horatio everything. He's going to say, I put this play together, and I have a favor to ask of you. I want you to watch the reaction of the king, and if he jumps or reacts, then we know that he is guilty. Horatio accepts, and he says, I will watch the king. And if I miss anything, I'll work extra hard to make sure that I don't. I'll be focused on him. If he's guilty, I'll be able to tell. And then Hamlet is going to say, okay, so after the play is over, then we'll discuss whether we both think Claudius is guilty or not. It's important, though, that they determine whether Claudius is guilty, because then Hamlet can determine whether the ghost was lying to him like a devil in disguise.
How now, my lord, will the king hear this piece of work?
And the queen too, and that's presently.
Let the players make haste. Will you two help to hasten them?
We will, my lord.
What ho! Horatio!
Here, sweet lord, at your service.
Horatio, thou art e'en as just a man as e'er my conversation coped withal.
Oh,
Even-keeled.
dear lord.
I do not think I flatter. For what advancement may I hope from thee, that no revenue hast but thy good spirits to feed and clothe thee? Why should the poor be flattered? No. Let the candid tongue lick absurd pomp, and crook the pregnant hinges of the knee, where thrift may follow, fawning. Dost thou hear? Since my dear soul was mistress of my choice, and could of men distinguish, her election hath sealed thee for herself.
He's talking about the goddess Fortuna here, right? The goddess Fortuna, whatever she throws at you, you have been able to accept it with a calm reaction.
For thou hast been as one in suffering all, but suffers nothing. A man that fortune's buffets and rewards hath ta'en with equal thanks. And blessed are those whose blood and judgment are so well commingled, that they are not a pipe for Fortune's finger to sound what stop she please.
Okay, let's take a look at the annotation here. Blood. Blood represents passion. Hence, blood and judgment, reason, are opposites, which in Horatio are well commingled. They're well mixed. So all of the fluids in his body are well balanced. That's why he's so trustworthy, why he's such a well balanced person. So then he's going to go on to say, you are not like a pipe for Fortune's finger. Like Fortuna can't play you like a pipe, can't play tricks on you, because you are so well balanced that you just can't be played. Now this is important to note because a little bit later on, he's going to suggest that Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are trying to play him like a pipe, Fortune's pipe.
Give me that man that is not passion's slave, and I will wear him in my heart's core, I in my heart of heart, as I do thee.
Okay, so again, huge compliment. You are such a trustworthy person. You are in my heart of hearts. And then he's going to tell Horatio everything.
Something too much of this. There is a play tonight before the king. One scene of it comes near the circumstance which I have told thee of my father's death. I prithee, when thou seest that act afoot, even with the very comment of thy soul, observe mine uncle. If his occulted guilt do not itself unkennel in one speech, it is a damned ghost that we have seen, and my imaginations are as foul as Vulcan's stithy. Give him heedful note, for I mine eyes will rivet to his face, and after we will both our judgments join to censure of his seeming.
Well, my lord, if he steal aught the whilst this play is playing and escape detecting, I will pay the theft.
All right, so Horatio says, yes, I will watch him, and I'll make sure, if he's guilty, I will know. And Hamlet says, good. Okay, we'll talk after about my uncle. The play is starting.
They are coming to the play.
I must be idle. Get your place.
Okay, so it says Danish march, a flourish. A flourish here is, they call that when the bugles are playing. The bugles are playing to announce that the king and queen have either arrived or are leaving. So that's what they call it, a flourish. So the king and queen are here now.
How fares our cousin Hamlet?
Excellent, i' faith of the chameleon's dish. I eat the air, promise crammed. You cannot feed capon so.
All right, so let's take a look here. Claudius probably means, how are you? How fare you? Hamlet. Hamlet, though, purposefully misinterprets the question as, what do you eat? According to an ancient belief, the chameleon feeds on air. So he's acting crazy right away, right?
I have nothing with this answer, Hamlet. These words are not mine.
No, not mine now. My lord, you played once in the university, you say?
Okay, so the king says, what are you talking about? Eating the air? I don't get it. And Hamlet says, don't worry. And then he says to Polonius, weren't you an actor in university? And of course, Polonius is going to say, I was a wonderful actor in university.
That I did, my lord, and was accounted a good actor.
What did you enact?
I did enact Julius Caesar. I was killed in the Capitol. Brutus killed me.
It was the brute part of him to kill so capital a calf there. Be the players ready?
Aye, my lord, they stay upon your patience.
Come hither, my good Hamlet. Sit by me.
No, good mother, here's metal more attractive.
All right, so the queen says, Hamlet, come and sit by me. And he says, no, here's metal more attractive. Ophelia metal has more magnetic or attractive power. So he's struggling here. He still loves Ophelia very much, but he feels her apparent betrayal very deeply.
Oh, you bark that?
Lady, shall I lie in your lap?
No.
I mean my head upon your lap.
All right, so he says here, should I lie in your lap? And he lies down at Ophelia's feet. He looks crazy, right? And she says, no, my lord, don't lie at my feet. And he says, oh, okay, but do you think, then he says, I mean my head upon your lap. And then she says, "Oh, my lord, you can't put your head in my lap. There are people here." And he says, "Do you think I mean country matters? Do you think I'm being common, like I'm making a sexual comment to you?" And she says, "I think not, my lord." She's a really virtuous, pure person. And then he goes for it. He says, "That's a fair thought, to lie between maids' legs. It's clear sexual innuendo." And she is like, "Oh, what is, my lord?" She's just, flabbergasted. And then he just says nothing. And Ophelia says, "You're pretty happy today, my lord, aren't you?" And Hamlet says, "Who, me? Of course I'm happy. Why wouldn't I be happy? I mean, look how cheerful my mother looks. And my father died, just a few months ago." So he's going to zing. He's going to make these little zings at his mother, and he's going to continue to make them. It shows that he is really struggling with, the fact that his mother remarried so quickly. He's bitter.
You think I'm in country matters?
I think nothing, my lord.
That's a fair thought, to lie between maids' legs.
What is, my lord?
Nothing.
You are merry, my lord.
Oh, I?
Aye, my lord.
Oh, God, you're only jig maker. What should a man do but be merry? Well, look you how cheerfully my mother looks, and my father died within 2 hours.
Nay, it is twice 2 months, my lord.
So long? Nay, then let the devil wear black, for I'll have a suit of sables. Oh, heavens! Died 2 months ago, not forgotten yet. Then there's hope a great man's memory may outlive his life half a year. But by Lady, he must build churches then, or else he shall suffer not thinking on, with the hobby horse, whose epitaph is, for oh, the hobby horse is forgot.
All right, so this whole bit about the hobby horse. Hobby horse, in earlier times, the hobby horse, a man dressed in a horse's costume, had been part of the May Day celebrations. The Puritans, however, had suppressed the May Day rituals, hence the hobby horse was forgotten. So he's saying, "Oh, it's only been 2 months? No wonder my mother's remarried and happily, getting on with life." He's mocking the forgetful behavior of both the king and the queen. All right, so enter king and queen, a player king and queen, an actor king and queen. So this is a dumb show. The dumb show is just a pantomime of like a summary of what's going to happen in the play. I'm just going to read this pantomime here, or the stage directions here, and then we'll leave it. So enter a king and queen very lovingly, the queen embracing him and he her. She kneels and makes a show of protestation unto him. He takes her up and declines his head upon her neck, lays him down upon a bank of flowers. She, seeing him asleep, leaves him. Soon, though, comes in another fellow, takes off his crown, kisses it, and pours poison into the king's ears and exits. So this is exactly what Claudius did. The queen returns, finds the king dead, and makes passionate action. The poisoner, with some 2 or 3 mutes, comes in again, seeming to be so sad. The dead body is carried away. The poisoner then woos or flirts with the queen with gifts, and she seems to loathe and be unwilling for a little while, but in the end, he accepts her love. So this is exactly what happened. It is a true reenactment of what happened with old Hamlet, right? The killing of his father. Okay, so we'll continue this tomorrow, folks.